Hey everybody, it's Belinda. Should an employer know if I utilize public transportation for work? A lot of times, employers an HR person may ask, do you have reliable transportation? The answer is yes or no. Reliable transportation is public transportation. But be clear, some public transportation in Gwinnett County, I'm not even going to say Atlanta, in Gwinnett County, on Sundays, the bus stops running at a certain time. So if I need you at 6 o'clock, the bus stops running at 5 o'clock. Then you need to say, I have reliable transportation, but it is public transportation. And I know you want me to work on Sundays, but the bus stops running at 5, which means it doesn't mean you get off at 5. It means you probably need to get off at 4 or 3:30 so you can catch the bus and get home. Because if you're just getting off at 5, you don't have transportation. You've missed the public transportation in Gwinnett County on Sundays. So you do not have to say when you're first initially talking that public transportation is your transportation. Unless they ask you specific times and locations. I'll go again with Gwinnett County. Gwinnett County is huge. Gwinnett County public transportation doesn't go all around Gwinnett County. For some reason, they only go certain areas. So if your employment calls for you to go in certain areas in Gwinnett County and public transportation is your transportation, you want to be mindful of that. You want to think about what your options are in that, because maybe you just can't do that position. And you can say that because guess what? They may have another position that you can do. A lot of times people X themselves out and for no reason. They X themselves out of a position because you can say, here's what I can do, and be honest up front. If you can't do that 1, 2, or 3 things, there may be another position within that company that you can do that just hasn't been posted yet. So I know someone who works for DeKalb County. When they went out for a position, they were interviewed for a position, and the person told them, hey, I think you can do a lot more. I'm not going to give this position to you because there's another position, a higher up position that's coming that I think you would be perfect for. Your resume gets you the interview. Your interview skills land you the job. Your resume is what gets you in the door. How you present, how you talk, how you articulate gets you the job. And maybe not the job you're going after, but an even better job. So be mindful of that when you go in. Don't be afraid to say what, if you can't do something, if it's just outside of your skills, if it's, I can't travel 80%. You can say that. You can say instead of traveling 80%, here's what I can do. Because they may say, excellent, we have another job that doesn't require travel at all. Would you be interested in that? Is it appropriate to get up and walk out of the interview if you decide you're not interested anymore for one reason or another, such as pay being offered or job duties? So I would say it's rude. I wouldn't necessarily say it's inappropriate, but I would definitely say it's rude for, you heard maybe the job's paying $8 an hour. You want 9, and you grab your bags and walk out because they said it's $8 an hour, when in fact you could negotiate. So I always say, hear the interview, go through the interview, hear what it is, learn about the company. A lot of people overreact on pay and maybe benefits, but learn about the company. I talked about this in an earlier video. Pay is important. That's why we all work. People who don't need money volunteer. We all work because we need a paycheck so we can pay our bills. That's understood. That's a given. That's why we're working. The question is, do you want to work for a company who's miserable, who treats people bad, who has a horrible reputation? That's what you want. Those are important questions. The money piece will work itself out. The benefits piece will work itself out. But you can't, for example, for one company, you can't fix a CEO who's corrupt. You can't fix a CFO who's corrupt. You can't fix a supervisor who's corrupt. You can't fix that. And as you're talking, if their turnover is high and they can't keep anybody, That's what you want to know. Now, they may be paying $75 an hour. And you're like, that's good money. But the longest somebody's been there is 4 months. There's a reason why the oldest employee has only been there 4 months. So you want to ask in an interview more in-depth questions. Not just what's the money, what's the pay, and what's benefits. Those are important questions. Don't hang your hat on that. So it is rude, I repeat, to just walk out of an interview because you hear something that you're not interested in as far as pay. Same thing for job duties. At Rocket Science HR, one of our job duties is to job carve in duties and job carve out. And a lot of times people may advertise for a position that you have to be able to do this, this, and this. We go in there and we start talking about what our client can do and take some of these duties out and add some in. So don't be so rigid and so closed-minded that what's presented to you, you don't like what you're hearing, you walk out. When in fact, a lot of things can be negotiated. A lot of things, pay, benefits, job duties, working weekends, travel time, all of those things can be negotiated. How does it look if I do not give 2 weeks notice? So I saw something the other day that said you should not give your employee 2 weeks notice. I disagree with that. But everyone's adults and they make their own decisions. So why I think you should give your employer 2 weeks notice? Because you leave on good standings with that. If their requirement is that when you leave that you provide them a 2 week notice to be eligible for rehire, then you should provide them a 2 week notice. You're down to the last 2 weeks. No need to flush it all down the toilet at that time. People will say, well, once I give 2 weeks, then, they may be mean. They may be, trying to give me all this work. And all that may be true. They may be mad because you're leaving. So they're trying to pile all this work on you. I had that happen to me. I gave notice. The supervisor was upset, to say the least. I gave 2 months notice, upset to say the least, and stopped talking to me. Now, was it uncomfortable for those 2 months? And the whole time I'm like, I gave you 2 months. The requirement was 2 weeks. I gave 2 months. But I left on good terms because it's my integrity and it's your integrity. So now here's the other thing too. Sometimes your new job may not allow for 2 weeks. Every person that I hire, every person I interview and I offer the job, I always say, how much notice do you have to give your employer? Because I would hate for you to just drop off and they don't know what happened to you. That speaks on your character and your integrity. Now, if the new job is offering you saying, I can't give my employer, you don't have enough time to give 2 weeks notice, because, sometimes that happens. If your new job is not willing to let you work out a 2 week notice, that says something about your new job, but I digress. Your old job, you owe them to say, hey, I wanted to give 2 weeks notice because I don't want to burn a bridge, but the new job's starting in a week and they will not allow me to give that time. Again, be upfront, be an adult. You won't be eligible for rehire, but you won't have, you have your integrity. To just quit, to fall off, that's your integrity. That speaks on your character. So I believe that you should always give the company that you're working with notice. Whatever their requirement notice is, some people's 1 week. Most people are 2 weeks. Some companies are 1 month. You just have to follow your company's handbook, if you have employee handbook, or their policy procedures, or what they require, what they ask for, so that you're eligible for rehire. Because down the line, so I'm gonna give a good example on that. So at the company that I was working, I was the HR director, and the lady's new job started 1 week. She was only able to give 1 week. So she didn't come and say, hey, the new company won't let me give 2 weeks. None of that. She just gave a 1 week notice. Fine. That's the card she played. She goes to start her new job. On the second day, they had a freeze, and all new hires had to be furloughed. And so because that was her day 2, she was furloughed, which means they ended up letting her go because they had a freeze. I don't know what happened with the company, but they had a freeze. So she immediately came back to the company that she gave 1 week notice and said, "Can I come back?" Well, you're not eligible for rehire. You are a good worker. I agree. But you left, no explanation, no anything, you left. That didn't work out. Because if that would have worked out, you wouldn't have came back. That didn't work out. And here you come saying, "No, I really want to stay here." Give 2-week notice. If you can. If you can give more than that, give more than that. But give your company at least 2 weeks notice so that they can prepare for your exit. That's your character. How your managers or anybody, if they treat you nasty, that's on them. That's their character. But you're on your character and your integrity. So make sure that you do that.